We've talked about the editing game and how it's changed. So this is probably a question that you get a lot, and most experienced editors get a lot. What are some of the pitfalls that people shouldn't fall into when they're getting into editing, specifically nowadays? Like, there's a lot of things that have changed that you've said.
Honestly, and this is something that I've felt for a while. I think, honestly, a big pitfall for editors is sort of the community that we've created for ourselves. And I don't mean to say that the community is bad in any way, but I really do think it's important to give yourself some distance from editing and other aspects of your life, and not just, what we talked about before, but the community itself, because I find that it does put a lot of value on your technical skill as an editor, and constantly trying to please your peers is, in like my opinion, just the fastest way to burn out and feel like defeated about your skill level. And once I took a step back and I started focusing truly on only what my client wants and what I know I'm capable of doing, like my job became 100 times more fulfilling. And so I think a lot of people do kind of get lost in the trap of, you want to be part of this community because, one, you're going to learn, you're going to meet people with similar interests to you. And there's so many loving and great people in the editing community. But I do think you really should consider what you're getting out of it and try not to put too much into it. Because it can drain you. It can drain you to just constantly try and be one of the best editors, or constantly trying to impress your peers, because you're never going to get to what you want unless you're just fucking amazing and whatever. But still, even then, truly, if I find the most fulfilling way to go about it is to just focus on what you're trying to do and not really worry about what your peers think of you. And I even just talked about an editor about this literally yesterday, who's been dealing with this. And it's like, it's not an easy thing to recognize that the community you're in and you love so much is kind of, damaging to your psyche, but you kind of have to realize that at some point. Or I had to realize that. I don't think it's true for everybody, but I do think people should consider what they're getting out of putting so much time into a community that, you don't really need to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Coming in from an outsider's perspective too, I've been sort of engrossed in the editing community. I'm not an editor myself, past the YouTube video every now and then, but yeah, I've been a part of these editing communities for a few years now, just because of my friends like Spooks and Zach and a few other people, and the work that I've done. And a lot of the things that I've seen coming from an outsider is editors will hone their skills and produce projects to impress, like you said, to impress other editors. And they sort of lose track of what the average person really enjoys out of a video. Like they'll spend so much time getting that perfect bloom transition, or that perfect, I don't know the editing terms, I'm sorry, Mr. Editors. The perfect
bloom transition is absolutely the correct term. We'll go with that.
Just remember your audience, especially if you're starting out. Remember that the editing community is a great place. There's a lot of ridiculously smart and talented editors out there, but they're editors, and what they appreciate out of a video might be wildly different than what the guy who watches 8 hours of Synapse a day wants, or the guy who watches Ninja play Fortnite 24 hours a day wants. So,
and this advice, and that advice definitely goes 100% more for people trying to transition this into a career, because I think that's 100% an important factor to take in, is what are you creating, and who is it for? If this is going to be your career, what kind of content do you want to get good at? Not saying that you have to lock yourself, and please actually don't ever lock yourself into a certain style of content, or only consider yourself being capable of making something, because that's just not true. I've thought that about myself for many times, but I've always, as long as you start to do it, you will prove yourself wrong, I promise you. But still, it's dangerous to get locked up in that. You can really lose sight of what is best for you in your future if you're just constantly trying to impress your peers.
Yeah. And there's a funny comparison that I can make. for people who maybe aren't super familiar with editing who are listening to this episode. There's a lot of comedians out there that have a favorite comedian, and they'll be like, "Oh man, this is the funniest guy ever." But more often than not, those people are never really widely successful. The comedian's comedian, because they'll have like a great style, and they'll have all these related content to what comedians like, and they'll be like, "Man, this guy makes me laugh." But they're not pulling in sold out shows in Vegas, and they're not pulling in 100 million views on their Netflix special or something. And that's like sort of, I don't know if that's like it's not necessarily a bad thing if you want to be that person who makes editing content.
Like what are your goals? If your goals truly are to grow and make this editing your career, then you should be focusing on the right things, I think. And that is truly just figuring out what your client and what your client's audience and just like what type of content you want to make in the future. Like set yourself up for that. Try not to lock yourself into just a certain style of editing. I've said this, like I keep repeating myself, but I really mean that. Like there are different types of, editing jobs in this community, and like you'll be expected of different things. Like if you're making stream highlights, you're definitely going to have different expectations than someone who's making montages and stuff, but still you can accomplish both, and you can be very good at both if you really want to. That's like you can be good at any form of editing as long as you put the time in and you are an experienced editor. Like there is no form of content that's being made right now that I don't think like any editor who's in the scene couldn't make if they put the time into it. It's just like you really just have to know what you want to do and not lock yourself into something.
Yeah. And this is probably a question that you get and every editor gets like every single time they check their Twitter mentions.
Yeah.
So we'll just get it out of the way now. This is going to be a clip for the highlights playlist that I have put together. What are some places that you should start when you're starting out as an editor and you're just completely new to the community, like completely new to the job? Like what software should people check out? What types of videos should they work on? What type of portfolio should they build?
So starting with programs, because that's always the biggest one, the answer is truly, it depends on where you are right now. If you've already started in editing and picked up a program, I believe that there's no harm in just sticking with it, and don't really take other people's, what they believe to be the best editing program into consideration if you are just starting and you just want to learn to edit. If you started on something, keep at it. I will say, if you want to transition,
cut in real quick, we all know that the most superior editing software is Sony Vegas. So if you're not using if you're not using Sony Vegas, just try to migrate over there eventually, because it is the best platform.
Oh man.
Completely
so speaking
kidding.
of Sony Vegas, well, okay, let me actually explain that though, because like I started on Sony Vegas and I edited on Sony Vegas for the first, I think, 6 years that I edited. And it's an amazing program, and it's like an amazing program to learn editing on. But if you are really trying to transition this into a career, consider learning the Adobe Suite, because it's the standard as of now, and just learning to work in those programs, especially if you're going to be in a collaborative environment where you might actually need to work with someone on a project, they're going to be using Adobe. It's just, it's what the standard call or the industry calls for right now. And so learning that is like a really valuable skill. It took me truly, after 6 years of learning of editing Sony Vegas, it took me about a month of producing content daily on Premiere, just forcing myself to do it to really get a hang of it. But once I did, and once I started introducing After Effects into my work, like my entire skill set kind of expanded, because there's things that you can do in these programs that you simply can't do in Sony Vegas and other programs. And learning to master those programs will take you a long way. But again, if you are just starting and you want to learn how to edit, don't bother skipping or changing whatever you're doing. Just focus on the basics. Learn what you need to learn. And you'll eventually find that if you want to switch over to a more powerful program or whatever, you will, just because you'll eventually get to a point where you want to make cooler stuff. and you realize that you can't do it because of the limitations of the program. So it can be natural. You really don't need to force those things, is my final statement on that, is that really just like learn what you got and take it slow. But also, over the years, my method of learning truly has only ever been like, if I want to learn something, I just Google it until I find a resource that will walk me through it. And to me, that's always been YouTube for free. I've never paid for, no, I have. I'll take that back. I paid for one thing to learn how to do a specific thing. I believe, I forget what the site was, but still, like, YouTube is such a good resource for this. And I've never personally stuck to like a specific person or channel, but I know some that I kept coming back to, where like Mount Mograph is a really good channel for learning After Effects. He just like probably my favorite. I know Peter McKinnon has like a lot of great videos just on learning basic stuff in Premiere. But even that, like literally it just comes down to knowing what to Google. So if you want to do a specific effect, the hardest part sometimes is figuring out what that effect is. Sometimes you just don't know what it's called, or I've literally Googled like describing a certain effect and spent 20 pages of Google search just to get like find the name of what I was trying to accomplish. But then once you find it, you can look up a YouTube tutorial and there's guaranteed going to be one there telling you exactly how to do that. And you can learn just like that. Yeah. So like, learning editing really.
I've done that so many times where it's just like you Google something and it's so obscure and it's so oblique.
Obscure.
You're like, how to make sparkle but fade out backwards, and then you're like, oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
But you will eventually like, if you put in enough time doing that, you will find what you're trying to do. And I guarantee there's going to be a tutorial on it. It might be terrible. It might be a dude just like spending the first 6 minutes of the video in his notepad, but like you will get there. And you don't need to pay for these things. I have personally, I never like have gone to post-secondary education for editing. Out of high school, I just kind of chose to pursue this. But I'm glad I did. But I still think college definitely has its place in this industry. But at the same time, like in this era of digital content, like you can have this skill set, you can learn it completely for free on your own time. Like there isn't any need to go into debt to learn how to edit. Mm-hmm. And I think there's absolutely value in being taught by someone who with tons of experience. And I really don't want to like discredit college or anything, because I think it's very valuable, and people who do go through that have a skill set that I probably don't have. But also at the same time, I'm just happy that I spent the past 6 years being involved in this and just learning the industry from the inside, like just kind of learning it naturally. I'm very glad that I chose to just make this my path instead of trying to go the traditional way. And I think a lot of editors are similar.
I'm going to come out of left field and I'm going to say, fuck college. College sucks. If you are doing something,
education.
Yeah, if you're doing something that you can do, learning like Spook said on YouTube or whatever, even if you're using like a site like Skillshare or Bright or whatever it's called, you can learn so much about this industry and about entertainment in general, and just doing stuff and learning it for yourself. There are so many colleges that will gladly take hundreds of or dozens of thousands of dollars from you, and will put you in debt for the rest of your life, and will teach you nothing but how to be stressed, how to look up answers on Quora.com, how to cheat on your midterms, how to do whatever. I don't know. I went to college and I'm not a big fan of it.
See, like my experience is obviously completely, because I never went. And so I obviously don't want to discredit people, but I also kind of fully agree with what you're saying, just because like you truly can just learn this skill for free, and you can learn it in the most organic and natural way on your own time, literally just by doing what you want to do. If you want to make a video, I say it's simple, but it really is as simple as filming whatever it is, whether it be in game or in real life, putting it into an editing program and saying, what do I want to do with this? And just figuring that out. Like you have to put in the effort to learn, but once you learn the basics, like everything just kind of falls into place. Like it's really the hardest part of learning editing is just getting the basics down for sure. And some people probably have an easier experience with that being taught by someone directly, but it's not impossible. Even if you think it is, like, it's really not impossible to learn from absolutely nothing. And having no prior knowledge of editing, you can probably pick up like a program like Sony Vegas, like pick up as in learn the basics within like 3 months and be proficient in it somewhat.
And you can also
maybe
pick it
probably
up.
less. Yeah, you can just pick it up.
Yeah. Sony Vegas is on the ground. Just pick it up.
Just pick it up.
Pick it up from youtube.com/SonyVegasFree.com.
Yeah. We won't talk about the fact that everyone editing on Sony Vegas is never paid for it. But
they love Sony Vegas so much because it's the easiest to crack.
Yeah. 100%. I think truly, like back in the day, that was the reason it got so popular, I think. Because if you looked up, you know, I got into editing in making first it was I actually remember the first video I ever posted to YouTube. It was, and this was probably in like 2007. So I was 10. I made a stop motion video of Legos on my desk with a little webcam. I took pictures. I dragged that into Windows Movie Maker. And then that's how I started making stuff on Windows Movie Maker. I eventually transitioned into my Halo 3 screenshots because I took some sick screenshots on Halo 3. And so I really wanted to like showcase them to the world. And so I put I think Nickelback, a little bit of Three Doors Down, and I gave each of them like a title, and you know, that was my content, and that was the first stuff I made. But eventually I tried to transition into like playing COD with my friends, and one of my friends made a montage, and I was like, holy shit, it was really bad, but I was so impressed that I wanted to make my own. So I also made my own shitty montage over the course of like a month, you know, learning how to edit, and I just kind of fell in love with it like that, you know, like it just doing the shit that you want to do, you will eventually learn the skill set.
Do you think you can go back and find that Lego YouTube video that you made?
Dude, if I can, I will genuinely search for it tonight and try and find that, because that like I haven't thought about that in so many years, and now it's so clear in my mind.
I had an old YouTube channel that I went through recently and privated everything because it was awful. And it was I think some of the first videos I made on it, some of them were just uploads of like commercials that I thought were funny, and I would rip them and just upload them. And then a few of them were like cringy home videos I made with my friends, and then a few of them were like,
we've all done it.
A few of them were like music videos where I would take like screenshots of Zelda characters and stuff and like try to match up the stuff to the music.
Yes, dude.
It's awful.
Like, just it's awful, but it's like it's the most organic form of content creation. And I feel like, you know, we're how old are you? I actually don't know.
I'm 24 in August.
Okay, so we're literally the same age, and so we've kind of had the same probably introduction into YouTube and this kind of digital platform. Like all of these platforms they've sort of like, we've just grown up with them, but also saw them at their very beginning. Like we were just at a weird age, I find, where like I've understood YouTube and where it was going to go from a very young age for some reason. And I got stuck on that. Since I was like 14, I've been stuck on the fact that I want to do YouTube or work on YouTube and create videos for a living. And I really like, it was just a matter of being the right age at the right time, I think, for a lot of it, you know, being able to understand the platform and where it's going to go. But I don't know, man.
Yeah. Getting to see that transition of YouTube and content in general over the past decade or so has been crazy. Like you said, I think the first videos I ever watched on YouTube were it was a series called Halo Music Video Hell, HMVH, where they would do like 15 or 5-second clips of a song, like a popular song, and they would match a little clip of Halo up to it. And they're still around. Dude, and they're still funny.
I made so many RuneScape music videos. Like truly, I had Hypercam 2 on deck, and I would
unregistered. Like, wait, unregistered or registered?
Oh, of course. Never once in my life have I used registered Hypercam 2, and never will. Like, who would ever do that?
Is Hypercam still around?
I don't think so. I really hope not, dude. I really hope it's not still around. Honestly,
no, they shut down.
Yeah, it's yeah, man. Like that.
No, wait. Just Hypercam latest stable release April 15th, 2020. They're still making releases.
Hypercam in 2020. I almost feel like I need to.
Hypercam is a screencasting program made and created by Hyperonics and Solveig Multimedia. It captures the action from a Windows or a Microsoft Windows screen and saves it to an AVI, WMV, or ASF movie folder.
Initial release, January 8th, 1997.
1997? It's almost as old as I am.
Wow, man.
That's crazy.
Just reading the people also search for, there's Cam Studio, Bandicam, Camtasia, Fraps. All of those were programs that I used.
Fraps. And like Fraps was awful because the files were like 8 billion gigabytes.
Yeah. Oh yeah, dude. I remember that. That was awful.
You're like, I want to edit this hour-long League vid. I guess I need 600 gigabytes of storage for it.
Yeah. And like that was content creation back in the day. It was just people like figuring out like no one really knew what to do. Now people do know what to do. Like your computer, if you have an NVIDIA graphics card, it comes with Shadowplay. You can record 1080p. You can record literally like 4K footage, 60 FPS, just of any game you want if you have the Beast PC or whatever. But like you can, it's so easy now to just start creating content that it's probably honestly feels extremely overwhelming. And I think that's probably why a lot of people struggle right now, because everyone's doing something and it feels like you probably got to live up to whatever other people are doing. But you know, I would say just like really if we could get back to a point where people were just creating the wholesome content like that, I feel like YouTube in general would be a much happier place. But I know it's never going to get back there. You know, it's just, it is what it is now. It's its own beast, but I yearn for those days, dude.
I think one of the first videos I made on this channel, and it's long since pivoted, so don't bother looking for it. Yeah. Was I think it was my first day playing Minecraft, and I dug a little tunnel down to bedrock, and I'm like, digging tunnel all the way to bedrock.
Yes, dude.
I was just like, wow, that's crazy. Nobody's ever done this before.
Insane, man.
This was like super early in This was before the Nether got added. This was like really early.
Oh yeah, days. Dude, I have a specific memory of making my first ever Minecraft Let's Play and walking my viewers at the time, my viewers as in like maybe 4, through my Minecraft castle. And being extremely proud of it, and then getting 1 dislike on the video.
Aww.
Knowing that it was probably one of my friends because no one else watched it, and never touching Minecraft again. Like never making another Minecraft video again. Aww. That's a specific memory that I have of that.
That's
you
so
just brought that out of me, Nighthawk. I think I'm gonna cry.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, dude. It's
we unzipped you.
Yeah, but
man. I had a hustle. I had a great hustle back in the day, and this probably won't work anymore. But if you're looking into getting into Minecraft content in 2020, check this out. Mm-hmm. There was a site, I forget what it was called.
Because I am, and I need this advice.
Yeah, so this is for you, Spooks, and then in extension for everyone else watching this podcast. Absolutely. So if you're looking into getting into content, there's a site out there that hosts Minecraft mods, and they have a lot of third-party people making mods for them. So what I would do is I would go to Popular Mods, and I would say, hey, buddy, I'll make a mod review for your thing. If you sticky it on the top of your mod post, hey, it's good advertisement. Man, it's good for me. Good for
genuinely,
you.
Yeah.
Stuff and like that actually, I got a lot of views on.
Yeah, that's so genuinely. That's a very smart thing to do, because marketing your content, especially nowadays, is kind of, I mean, it's the only thing you really have, because unless you're in the YouTube algorithm, you're just kind of, it's just a sea of content right now. Mm-hmm. So finding creative ways to get your content out there like that is huge, especially if you're just making your own stuff. I really respect that. That's a funny way to do it. I like that.
It used to be you could go to Reddit and you could post like just anything and people would watch it and people would be nice about it, but you can't do that anymore. Like
you really can't.
Even if it's a small community, people were like, "What the fuck is this? This is awful. Get out of here."